So we're building tools off the back of the power ox. We have our basic toolbar that we had set up for the spiders, for the hillers, for the torsion weeders. Now we're going to continue assembly for the S-Tine cultivator. The S-Tine cultivator is a tool that's been around a long time. These are the S-Tines. You can sort of see what they call it, the S-Tine, and they're flexible. And these are a small version. The tractors use longer ones, but for the power ox we use what they call a 9-inch S-Tine, and that's measured from this point down to the ground, this hole that's down here. So it's approximately 9 inches from this point here down to the hole that's in there. So that's why they call it 9-inch S-Tine. And we are going to assemble 5 S-Tines onto a toolbar so that the pattern can be staggered. And I say that so that we can imagine a staggered pattern. We're going to try to cultivate weeds between rows. So these are very useful for like between corn that's tall, whenever the plants are tall and the weeds are getting big. These sorts of sweeps and S-Tines are very useful to dig out those larger weeds. So it's a good tool in the toolbox. You know, we've taken care of small weeds, but sometimes during the season there are unexpected rains, you can't get in the field, and so we have to have another implement that can take care of larger weeds, and S-Tine cultivators help us out for those larger weeds especially. So what we've given in the ox in the box is an assortment. So we have 6-inch sweeps and 4-inch sweeps. And the 6-inch sweeps have a lower crown, and they because of these wings, the soil flows over the wings like this. These are actually called duck feet. So you can imagine a little bit resembles a duck foot. They are more narrow, but they also have this larger crown which throws soil. So imagine soil coming, and so these can be used to throw more soil into a row, covering up small weeds. So these can be organized or set up at a number of different ways. So if you're going, say you have a row that's 30 inches to a meter wide, something like that, you can set up a configuration like this. We're going in this direction now, just for the camera so you can see, so that we have some overlap between the edges. It's good if you can give an inch or two, or more than 2 inches even, that's useful to keep weeds from, you know, dancing around, avoiding getting cut. But in this situation, we can cover a space like this, which this is approximately 28 inches, 27 inches. So this would be if you had a plant row out here and you can run down the middle. Another possibility for using this type of a scenario is if you take away a sweep. And here you could get closer to a plant row and allow your plant row to go down the middle. And that way you're cultivating the weeds that are on each side of a plant row. So this gives a lot of different combinations that you can set this up. So in order to install the S-Tines in this staggered position, as if we were doing this again, we need to have a second toolbar. So we have one toolbar that's here already set up, and we will need to install a second toolbar of the same length, and we'll put it on in the same fashion underneath, like so. Okay? So we'll need a box. So we need 2 more of the cross clamps like we installed previously. Okay, we get out our little socket head cap screw, which is this 3/8 by 3/4 inch bolt, but it has kind of a unique head. They call it a socket head. It has the 6-sided, like for an Allen wrench, to be able to go inside. In our case, we're using the pliers to hold the bolt, and then we twist on the nut with a 9/16 wrench. The head of the bolt sticks from this side of the plate through the hole, and then we install our nut on top. So the head is inside. Okay. Need a hold. Okay. Okay. So now we can install the 1.5 U-bolts from this direction. Okay, now we can locate these with the head of this bolt into the 5/8 hole on one of these. You have a choice, but we'll put it in this one here. So we get a little separation between the front bar and the rear bar. We're going to position the bar with the holes up. We will not use these holes for this particular configuration, but because they're up everywhere else, we'll keep these holes vertical. Once again, Patrice has the 9/16 wrench and I've got the 14mm. To mount the S-Tines, you have to, this is the forward, the point that goes forward. They have to slide, the bar that we put them over has to slide up through here. So we're going to put this down like this. Once the S-Tine is over the bar, we'll use the S-Tine clamp, which it's part number AA9057. And that includes this L-shaped clamp and a long carriage bolt, 3/8 by, I think it's about 2.5 inches. And then we position it so this square hole for the bolt, for the carriage bolt, is forward. And so this has to be slid so that you can put the larger hole, the S-Tine, through it sideways and into that hole. And we'll do that in a different fashion here, just so you can see. And then the bolt hole goes through the side and that way. We'll leave them loose for now. It can be a little confusing, so let's look at it from a side view and before we stick it on the tube. We get our S-Tine clamp. So the S-Tine, the direction of movement will be to my left, going left, that direction. The clamp will fit this large hole on the clamp. The larger square hole on the clamp is on the back side, so it will slip in like this, and then the bolt will be on the front side. So we slip our long carriage bolt into the small square hole, and then we go through the hole that's on the S-Tine. So you can see how when you get your nut on here, when the nut is tightened down, the front of the clamp pulls downward and it squeezes the square tube. So now we'll put these 3 on the back tube. Yeah, doing great there. Yeah. Once again, this is the part that goes forward. We're sliding that downward and twisting, and so that goes around our square tube. While the tube, then we take the large hole. The large hole has to be fit onto the S-Tine that direction. So, and then that front prongs that stick down go over the front of the tube, and then we can see it coming out, so that our bolt we stick in the small square hole then goes into the round hole on the S-Tine, and we can put our nut on. Clamp, sliding down, twisting around. L-shaped clamp with the big square goes on. The S-Tine goes through, and the small square hole we put the carriage bolt into. That goes down then through the round hole that's on the S-Tine itself, and we attach our nut. And we'll leave these loose on the tube until we get our sweeps installed. That way we can help locate the right position, so that we have some overlap between each of those sweeps. Okay, we'll put our 2 duck feet on the front, and these are our duck feet sweeps, and these have a square hole, and in your power aux box you'll have this part number AW3090. That includes 6 bolts that are used for a variety of sweeps. So we have 5 and we'll have 1 left over. So these particular bolts are special because they have that type of rounded head that fit down. The square portion of the neck fits into the hole on the sweep, and that way it's rounded. And on a lot of sweeps you'll see a little nub, a little bump right there, and they've discovered that by having that little nub there, it protects the head of the bolt, because after, you know, many hours or, you know, of usage, the soil just wears that top of that bolt head and until the point could actually come out. So this little nub there helps protect. These sweeps don't have that, but that's the purpose of that. Then we take that bolt and the 3/8 nut that goes with it, and we put it through the hole that's on the bottom of the S-Tine, and we just put our bolt there. So we've installed the front two. Now we're on the second bar with these three. We'll put the 6-inch sweeps on the back. So bolt goes in, down into the hole on the bottom of the S-Tine, put on our nut. If you want to straddle a row, you can just take this one out and you have these S-Tines working on both sides of your row. If you have tall crops, you know, taller than this, because you can only cultivate the middle or on both sides if the crops are up this high. But if you have taller crops, you want to go down the middle of those rows, then you could put this sweep in and you cover this whole distance here. Okay, so one more, and on these you can either use that 9/16 wrench or the 14 millimeter. We want to have a little bit of overlap at least, but you can sort of accommodate between the width that you want to cultivate, and so that you always have a little bit of overlap. So these can be squeezed in or they can be taken farther out. But we'll put this one here right in the middle. So we find that spot and we'll tighten this one down. This looks like, I think, a good position for this one. If, for example, you wanted this to be farther away, you could actually move in this whole arm a little bit closer and then put your S-Tine on the outside of this bar to give more space. But in this case, having this front sweep is going to be able to take out this gap here, cut any weeds that might appear into that place or into the gap, and so we'll just move it over clear. And then we'll position this one just right there, because that's all we got because of this bolt. And once again, on this hitch, this location can be altered a little bit. So I think we're good right now the way it's positioned. So we'll press this all the way. Yep, very good, right there. So there you can see from the outside of the outside, we have 24 inches. So 24 inches is going to be the cultivated space in this configuration. If you need to get closer to the rows, you can actually put on larger sweeps, wider toolbars, but at least in the Ox in the Box kit, it gives you this ability to cover those 24 inches. So if you had 6 more inches between the outside of the sweep and the row, 6 plus 6 would be 12, that'd be 36 inches, approximately a meter. you know, that you could cultivate between rows that were 1 meter apart. And because when plants are larger, you know, then the roots are deeper, and you want to stay a little bit farther away from the root of that crop, because this will trim roots and cut down on yield a little bit if you're too close. So with larger plants, you always want to stay a little bit farther away from the root. Okay? One of the things that you have the ability to adjust the height. Now, S-Tines typically run 2 to 3 inches. They're a tool that can be deep, you know, go a little deeper than the other tools that we've already discussed. So S-Tines will typically run about 2 to 3 inches deep, and they pull up and cut larger weeds. So you have the adjustment back here with these gauge wheels. You can loosen these nuts and allow this to go downward, and maybe we can do that. Okay, with the 1/2 inch wrench, loosen these nuts, and we'll allow that back end to go down. There we go. See how that went down? So we're just about to that same level. Tighten this back up. Our implement is a little bit inclined backward. So it would mean these would be deeper than the front because of the height of the wheels. So what we want to do is make another adjustment with our Power Ox hitch. We can unhook now. We have the ability to flip. There is a little jam nut and a bolt that is tightened against the plate to hold that hitch from vibrating, from moving. Okay. So the Power Ox hitch is designed where it can be installed with this up or down, and so we'll put it down so we can make this implement pull a little bit lower than where it was previously. Put those back in, tighten up that nut again, the bolt. Now you can see we've got a little bit lower pull. We're sitting well on the ground, so when the tool engages, it will sink, and we're pulling a little straighter. So this concludes the portion for the implements or the tools that are attached to a Power Ox. Once again, there's another video that discusses the whole assembly of the Power Ox, but we wanted to conclude the options that are involved with the assembly of the different tools that are in the ox in a box. Okay.